Hello and welcome to this week's edition of The Olive Tree with me, Julia Fisher, the programme that brings you the stories of believers in Jesus living in Israel and the West Bank. And today's programme was recorded in Bethlehem just before Christmas, when I visited Nihad Salman, pastor of the Immanuel Church in Manger Street. To be a Christian in the West Bank today means you're in the minority. The majority are Muslim. In this heartfelt interview, Nihad describes the challenges he is faced with.
Well, I am Palestinian. I am a Christian. And please recognize when a Christian from the Middle East say, I am a Christian, it is not that we have been Muslims and were converted to Christianity. No. Most of the Christians of the Middle East now, they have been Christians already since before Islam. Before 1,400 years ago, they were Christians. When Islam came in, some had to be forced to become Muslims, some ran away, and some paid al-jizya, which is like a tax on the Christians to stay Christians in a Muslim country. So what happened is, if I say I am a Christian here in the Middle East, I am saying that through hundreds, even 1,000, maybe 2,000 years, my ancestors were Christians. So we have inherited Christianity in another sense. So when we say that, here among the Palestinians, we have 1% Christians and 99% Muslims. The 1% Christians, we're talking about all kinds of denominations, from Catholics, Greek Orthodox, Lutherans, Anglicans, and a tiny bit of very small percentage evangelical Christians. So most of the 1% Christians live in the area of Bethlehem, Beit Jala, Beit Sahur, which is next to it. And in this area, this one. So the atmosphere will be a little bit more different than other cities in the West Bank among the Palestinians, because here we would have more, maybe at least 30-40% Christian presence in this area. So for us here, we are still having the vision to stay and be the salt of earth and light of the world, to take up this vision and keep it alive.
Are you ever tempted to get up? Does it sometimes just feel too much?
Temptation is always there, especially for some of our people, where we are not living in an area where it is quiet in the sense of political and also a war zone. We live in a conflict area between the Israelis and the Palestinians, fighting who owns the land. The Israelis say God has given them 3,000 years ago the land, so they have the right to live now in the land. The Palestinians say, we have been here 2,000 years and we have our ancestors and we belong to this. We lived in this land longer than you do. And even the Palestinians says God given us the land. Even the Muslims claim that God gave them the land. And so it's a conflict. You can go on and on and on, and it's not ending. Christians find themselves in between a fight that they don't want to fight. Yes, as a Palestinian, I want my rights. I want to live in a peace and secure. And I want to live in a place where I am not under occupation, where I feel that my even smallest human rights is taken away from me. The right of movement, the right of even water, just water, to have simple. In some places, like in Gaza, the right of having electricity. So we do have a problem here. And so we are having a problem, may I say, of the political situation where there's some violence, and Christians don't want to be involved in violence. They want their rights. They want to see justice being done to all and peace. Since we don't see any solution, not even looking at the horizon to look maybe later down the road, no. So some lost hope in a peaceful solution, and that's why some say, why stay here? Why don't I go? The temptation is to live in a place where it's a peaceful atmosphere and a better future for your children, besides the economical situation. Bethlehem, at one point when we had the uprising, started in the year 2000, we had some violence on the streets. Tourism stopped completely. Bethlehem is a tourist city. People depend on tourism. That's the main industry. And so we wanted to see that many of our Christian fellows lost their businesses in tourism and restaurants and in souvenir places, factories to make the souvenirs, and also for the hotels. So this made the unemployment very high. At one point it was like 70% in the year 2000 up to 2006. We had many Christians leaving the area of Bethlehem because for several years they didn't have any jobs. Today it's about 38% unemployment. And this is affecting mainly the young people. We are losing constantly our young people because after they finish college or university, and they sit around and they don't have any jobs. So they look for opportunities outside. And I do understand that they want to go and find a future for them.
So as a pastor, you have so many roles that you have to fulfill, not least encouraging your people. Now you have a lot of people that come to this church. It's a growing church, a lot of families. It's laid out as we sit here for a banquet tonight. You're going to celebrate Thanksgiving.
Yes.
That's just for the church people, to encourage them, to give them some respite.
Of course, we shouldn't lose hope. Never lose hope. That's one thing. And the other thing is we want to see that the church would always have a place of encouragement, a place where we would fulfill our purpose, why we are here. God has not made us to stay here, that we are born here by chance, or God has a purpose for us to be here.
So on the one hand, you're encouraging your people,
yes,
and giving them hope. On the other hand, you want to reach the population that you're living amongst.
Of course.
And opportunities arise at times like Christmas time. Tell me what your plans are.
See, as we want to give hope to our people in serving, not just being served, because the purpose for us is not only serve me, the purpose for us to be salt and light. So we need to shine the way for the others all around us to see the way. And Jesus said, you don't light a candle and put it under the table. You have to shine. So we always tell our people, even though we see darkness, we don't run away from darkness. We shine in the midst of darkness. That's who we are. So when Christmas comes, it's for us, for example, opportunities. We're not allowed to make outreaches every day in the week or in the year, but Christmas is a time where it can be overlooked, where we can have some outreaches outside. So one of them will be, we want to have our worship team go out on the street and before the bookshop, the Christian bookshop that we have, and they will be singing and worshiping songs and carols of Christmas, but also giving testimonies, and on the streets giving out tracts and Bibles and talking to the people. So this is an opportunity we don't want to miss. So that's one thing we get excited about, making an outreach for the people around us. But also we'll teach our children also to make their own outreaches to other kids who are poor, who cannot afford to buy presents. So what they do, for 1 month they are putting from their allowance some savings, so that before Christmas they go with the parents, buy the present, and with that present they will be going in teams with other kids from the Sunday school here, and they will be going with the teams, going to the house of those poor kids, giving them the present that they bought them, and also singing with them and praying for those kids. And our kids get so excited, and we're teaching them how to be ministering to the others. Besides also the church, also we encourage them to collect funds in order to give out on Christmas some help, food to some poor families and so on. And also we have a big banquet that we invite people to come and be with us to celebrate Christmas. And it would be like an outreach, not just for the church, but also for friends and people around us.
So you may be few in number, but you clearly have a passion. What is your daily prayer? What is it that you're really calling out to God for? What are you wanting to see here in the West Bank?
First of all, that the ones who see themselves as salt and light to really be encouraged and continue to do that what we are, to be the salt which makes a difference of taste, and to be the light so that people can see the way. Jesus said, I am the way, but people need to see that, to enlighten their eyes through our testimony among us. And so that's one thing for the church to really be encouraged to continue to do the purpose that God wants us to be here as a testimony. The second, as God is preparing a harvest, He is showing Himself to people around us. He is really giving a testimony. He's appearing in dreams and the Christian media and so on. People are hearing about Jesus more and more, and there are people around us who are seeking the truth. What is the truth? And as we see God is preparing a harvest, really we want to pray as Jesus taught us. And He says, if you see a harvest, and you realize there's a problem, the laborers are few, pray for the Lord of the harvest to send laborers to His harvest. And this is my prayer at this point. God, send us laborers to your harvest.
You've been listening to Nihad Salman, pastor of an evangelical church in Bethlehem. The Olive Tree Reconciliation Fund is a Christian charity based in the UK that supports the needs of both Jewish believers and Arab or Palestinian Christians living in Israel and the wider Middle East. If you'd like to know more about our work through our bi-monthly newsletter, including news about our upcoming tours, please either visit our website www.olivetreefund.org or write to me, Julia Fisher, OTRF, PO Box 402, Billingshurst, RH14 4BQ in the UK. Meanwhile, join me at the same time next week for another story from the Olive Tree. Until then, goodbye.